Okay, so I'm going to talk about homelessness and how we can represent this in a way of data-driven storytelling. I'm using Power BI here. So let me introduce myself. I'm Pooja Walia, and I work for Capgemini Sogeti, and I'm a senior consultant, and my background is in data visualization using Power BI, Tableau, and other tools. So my main motive with this presentation here is, did I not? Sorry. So the purpose of this whole project was to show visualizations for a cause. We are used to doing visualizations and dashboards for business use cases, but this could be one opportunity for us and for an organization to show their attempt towards corporate social responsibility. And homelessness is a major social issue that is really widespread, and visualizations can come in handy when you want to show the statistics and how we can cure or just resolve problems state-wise or globally. So let me just go on with the dashboard. I'm going to share my screen again. Just give me a moment. Okay. So this is sort of to delve into what homelessness means and how we can represent it in a way that it touches hearts and shows our interest in the cause. So we all have homes, and we have multiple homes at times, but for homeless people, there is not even one home. So talking about homelessness, a homeless person is someone who does not have a home and therefore is living on the streets. And this is sort of the contents page where I talk about overall homelessness and the different categories of homelessness: chronically homeless, veterans, unaccompanied youth, parenting youth, and the worldwide. I talk about worldwide distribution and the death rates and some of the testimonials from homeless people who were interviewed. And then just talk about the continuum of care, which are programs which help people, which help shelter people, homeless people, and their statistics are provided state-wise as well. So talking about overall homelessness, this particular visual is made using Chiclet Matrix, which is one of the custom visuals that you can use in Power BI. What it is doing is you can select the states, and it is showing the sum of that particular state in 2017 and 2018. And here I've tried to show what it means and why it happens. So overall homelessness, the causes of the homelessness, why it happens due to housing, income, health, violence, racial inequality. So this particular presentation, this particular project is available in Microsoft Data Stories as well. So you can look into that if you want to, and go through different references that I've added here, which can give you a better picture of where this comes from. And then this is a typical donut chart and multiple axis chart where I've shown different statewise statistics of unsheltered and sheltered homeless people in the years 2017 and 2018. And this shows that out of the the total homeless people, how many were sheltered and how many are still unsheltered. Again, this data is old, given it's 2 years old, and this was a project that I did last year. So, but this is an attempt to show that you can do this with latest data and use this for different causes, homelessness just being one of them. So this shows the worldwide distribution, and this is a typical map that we have, like a default visual in Power BI, the Bing maps. And then this is a filter that you can add, and you can customize those visuals, and you can use size-wise distribution as for like showing these bubbles. So this is just the volume, the year-wise volume, and then using this filter, you can see the value for each year.
My own question here. You're using the Bing map there. Have you looked at using something like the Esri map where you can put in socioeconomic layers? Because I think there'd be a correlation between kind of if you look at homelessness and then you look at the income levels and stuff, because there are value layers available in the Esri maps, paid subscription. But I wondered whether
No, this was sort of a personal project that I made, and it is limited. Obviously, we can add different things like you were talking about income data. So once we add that, I think, yeah, that's a good point that we would be able to use more maps. I haven't personally delved into S3 maps. I was trying to use it in my current project, but like you said, I think it's a paid subscription or something. So, but yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we can put it in a comment or something so people can look into that.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So this is talking about chronic homelessness. The layout of this presentation is that I define what homelessness is and why it happens, and then the total versus the state-wise homelessness. So chronically homelessness, this is caused due to going back to being homeless. So people who suffer from disabilities, suffer from drug abuse, maybe they keep on going back to being homeless because they cannot have a proper job or cannot stay in that job for a long period of time. So this again shows the overall versus the chronically homelessness data using the donut charts. And then this is sort of a word custom visual that you have where you can just, it filters out the data. If you want to use interactions in Power BI, Power BI gives you that capability where you can just use, oh, sorry, my bad. So yeah, Power BI gives you the capability of adding interactions between different visuals. For example, this is a word visual, and then this is a stacked column chart. So this column chart is filtered using this visual. So if you talk about people and families, what you see here is the people and families segment of the chronically homeless distribution. And this is the overall, and then again, this is state-wise distribution of different segments of particular homelessness, which right now we're talking about chronically homeless. And this gives you the individual statistics. And if you click anywhere, it will remove the filters and you'll be able to see the default version. So now coming to homeless veterans, again, this is one other representation. So this is just based on homeless veterans, and you can again go to the source and check out the statistics and use the current data to show this, to present this. And okay. So again, this shows, so like we were saying, like one person mentioned here that we can use income. So different things can be used here, and we can dig deeper into what causes this, and we can use that data specifically to see that if this particular cause is the reason for people being homeless, maybe we need to work more on that. So that's when the power of visualization and showing data can really help, instead of just talking about it, or just, I mean, we have data here from NGOs, we have data here from the programs, the COC programs, which show us why these people are being homeless. And if we don't keep record of that, if we don't dig deeper into the problem, then I mean, we might be doing redundant efforts, and this might not be that efficient. So using data in this sense, so for this particular one, I just have used the sheltered and unsheltered. But if we have cause-wise data, we can use that and work for a specific cause as well. So again, this is for accompanied youth and why they are having this problem. So this particular visual has more categories, and this shows the accompanied youth, and this is segmented further based on the ages they fall under. So if I go to the next one. So this is based on the age 18 to 24, under 25, and under 18. So again, if we have more categories like this based on the cause, we can look into that. And this is just a word visual that I've used here, but to better format it, there are many custom visuals. Some are priced, some are there out to be purchased by some companies. There was one company that I was working with. It's called Visual BI. So they also have their product called XViz. So some of their products are really good in terms of the custom visuals that they present in Power BI. So, but this is the default. All the visuals that I've used here are free to use and anyone could use it. But again, there are some visuals that are really good, and you might have to go through the reviews, because with my personal experience, there have been times where some of the visuals were not properly made, and they were incomplete, and using them and customizing them was an issue. Uh, and again, with this particular default word visual that I have here, you cannot customize it properly. As you can see that the sizes are pretty random here. So if you want to customize your visuals properly, you might want to go and see if there are any visuals out there provided by good companies, or companies who are primarily dealing with business intelligence or data visualization. They have put out some good visuals where you can customize them further. So just the same functionality here. And so if you want to look into this, it primarily talks about, I've used a certain number of visuals, and it is used in the same manner for different types of homelessness. So given this, since we are here to maybe talk about technology and focus on that, I will not go into the details of this. I will just tell you how you can use these visuals or any data visualization tool for that matter and highlight any cause. And it will be a really good thing for your business as well if you show that, because I was doing a presentation on SEO, and that helps. One of the characteristics which Google ranking sees in a particular organization is their cause marketing or their corporate social responsibility. So if you are able to show something that you're using, for example, if you're working with data visualization and you have some products in data visualization, or there's a particular department. So for example, for us, we have an insights and data practice, which I belong to. So if I'm able to show this and put this out there, it gives more credibility to our business that, yeah, we are not only just using the business use cases, but we are also trying to show causes and how we can use our current technology to highlight those causes. And that's when maybe we can achieve better rates. For example, here we can maybe shelter more people or see where the problem is. And yeah, I mean, so it's good for both. I mean, it could be a personal project again, and you can put it out there in the Microsoft data stories. There are many interesting data stories that you might be able to see in the Microsoft community page for Power BI. So, and also you can put this in your blog section on your website, on your organization website, and have presentations or virtual webinars like this to show how we can use the current technology to highlight social causes as well. Okay, so this talks about the life expectancy. It's average 50 years, and it's just decreasing. And this is something that I got to know when I was doing this project, and I had no clue about this, that there's actually a National Homeless Persons Memorial Day, and it's celebrated on the 21st of December. So again, we don't know these things if we don't dive into them, and if we don't, I mean, so personally for me, I haven't, I had no clue about this being a specific day, and I had no clue about people who are living out there and what conditions they are living in and how we can improve that. So through this project, I was able to see that, and I was able to go through some of the testimonials that are mentioned here. There is a website called invisiblepeople.tv, which interviews people, homeless people, and shows their testimonies as well. So if you're interested in that, you can look into that as well. And so coming back to Power BI, it's a very good platform to allow you to customize many things. So, and it's a really user-friendly tool to use as compared to Tableau in particular, where there are still some things that and are not that user-friendly. So for example, here you can just add images. You can, while making this particular dashboard, for example, you can select multiple images and move them. So these are some things, and you can maybe even copy paste or duplicate that. So some of these features are still not there in Tableau. So Power BI compared to Tableau, I feel is user friendly, although Tableau obviously is a market leader in this sense, and it provides many integrations. But if someone wants to use Power BI, they can easily use it because it doesn't require that much of a prerequisite knowledge or prior experience. So from my experience, I thought that using Power BI was much easier as compared to other tools. And one other thing about Power BI is it's a Microsoft product. So if an organization is also is already using Power BI, is already using Microsoft, so for example, Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Office, they might be able to uh, get it in that whole suite where you can use Power BI, and it could be cost effective in that sense as well. And in particular, this one, it's I think free, so you can use it. You might need to. So for me, I used it using my university credentials, and so that means it should be an organization that uses it. But again, given that you're already using a Microsoft suite, you should be able to get this in a good price as compared to Tableau. And then this is just a word cloud that I've used here, and this is a basic table format. So this is to show, these are just quotes, and what I did was just add those quotes in an Excel sheet and just input them in a tabular format. And with this particular word cloud, what we can do is we can further customize it. Let me show this here. So we have different features like stop words, and we can further add words in that which we want to stop. We can do the data colors. We can rotate the text, for example, like this. And there are many other things that you can do. So this is, if someone is new to Power BI here, this is how you can customize a particular visual. So what you do is just select a visual from these. These are the default visuals that we have. And you can get more visuals or import a file or remove a visual. But if you go to get more visuals, I think this was recently updated. Before it was get a visual from a marketplace or something like that. So you can get more visuals where you can find the custom visuals that some companies or individuals might have added. So for example, these are the visuals that are out there. But then again, you have to be careful to see that some of them might be out there to be purchased, and they might not be free to use. So there are many different categories that these visuals are divided into. And if your particular organization is working in data visualization in terms of providing custom visuals for Power BI, you will be able to see that here within my organization. But other than that, you can just select any visuals from out here. And so we even have some, so KPI metrics is a is something that most of the companies do use, and it's a really important metrics in terms of analyzing performance for anything for that matter. So we do have different visuals just to see that. So again, the point that Power BI gives a lot of it has a lot of variety in terms of the custom visuals, apart from the visuals that it provides for free. So definitely check this out. And if you are interested in just doing data visualization for your personal projects, I would definitely recommend trying Power BI for that. So this is a hierarchy filter. This one was one of the latest visuals that Microsoft added recently. It was actually added last year. And this can come in handy where you are showing a hierarchy for different things. And you can use different filters, for example, states, categories, COC names. So what COC is, it's the continuum of care. These are the programs or organizations which help the homeless people to get a proper shelter, and maybe even work towards providing them employment and making them ready to get an employment. And all this data has been provided by the continuum of care. And this is again a 2 years this is a 2 year old data, so it has 2017 and 2018, but you can definitely go and see that. So it's called hotexchange.info, where I've got this data from. So you can use that and get the latest data to show the visuals. And yeah, at the end, just have the references. So if you see this, this was a complete personal project, and it was just me checking out the different capabilities of Power BI. So I was able to see that you can use many things. So for example, I've used bookmarks here, and all of these are you are able to click and go to that particular page. Yeah, so what I've done is I've created separate sheets for all of these visualizations, for example, overall homelessness, chronically homelessness, and then I've added pictures here, and I've added a blank button here where it is navigating to the bookmarks for these sheets. So this is one good capability of Power BI, which is good in terms of presentation. So this is also one thing that I would recommend, that if you're showing some visualizations using Power BI, and if you're showing it to the management or just presenting them, you might be just able to use Power BI, and you even need not go to Microsoft PowerPoint for that. So you can just use Power BI to show whatever I have in the PowerPoint. You can just input it in Power BI, and it gives you that capability to just use that for the sole purpose of presenting. So that is also one good thing about Power BI. And I've attended some conferences before which talk about this thing, that yeah, it's a good thing if you just do presentations based on Power BI. How it helps is that you may would not be adding static visuals, and you can just show how the visuals are changing. So for example, this thing in particular, this is providing sums, although this data okay. So what I was trying to say is, if you're just using this in a PowerPoint presentation, you might not be able to show a real-time change. And if you're just using Power BI for presentation purposes, you can show how that visual works and show the functionality as well. So I would recommend using this for the presentation purposes as well.
Pooja, just as a question, out of my own curiosity, when
Yeah.
you're working with the data, what did you find too redundant, and what did you find that was missing from the data that the COC collects? Because these are like sort of a collaborative data that they pull from across the different states. So I just wanted to get your opinion from someone who is doing this from like the outside perspective. What did you find difficult? What did you find easy to sort of work with?
So this particular data, talking about data modeling perspective, I needed to unpivot it or do some of those calculations to get a proper data set, which I could input in a visualization. But from just an outsider perspective, not talking about data visualization here. So like one person was mentioning, if we have data based on income and if we have cause-wise data, I think that is something that can be helpful here, because this shows just an overall view. But if we are able to get data for a particular, we know that these particular homelessness categories are due to some causes. For example, here it just shows the overall cause. So if we have data based on these separate causes, I think that would have been really helpful, even for me to show here.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So this was the entire project that I made. And this is, again, this is out there in Microsoft Community Data Stories. So you can find it there. And let me share my screen. And you can reach me out on LinkedIn as well if you have any questions or if you want to work on something. So yeah, you can reach me out there. That's it. Do you guys have any questions? Any recommendations? Okay. So that was it. Thank you, everyone, for being patient. And
Paul put his hand up for a question, so I just brought
it. This just quickly, Pooja, I just wanted to say thank you for that. It just so happens that I'm the data analyst for a homeless shelter here in Cincinnati area. And so I'm really grateful that you chose that. And I think it's a problem worldwide that, we all kind of have a place in our hearts that we want to try to help. And I think, as my role there, I'm in the data side, and I'm going to throw this out to the whole organization. If there's people there that want to try to help us to present data or to, to kind of analyze it, of course, most organizations like where I work, we're nonprofit, and we don't have deep pockets to spend on analytics. I mean, we try to keep people alive, with food and water and roof over their heads. So I'm just I wanted to say thank you and throw it out to the rest of the people listening that if you want to work with me on anything, I'm open for that. As far as the Power BI, just as a note, we do get free licensing, I think, from Microsoft that's with Power BI. So that would be helpful for us to advance in that area.
Yeah. So could you reach me out, or if you could provide me your LinkedIn
I'll reach
or
out
something,
to you.
If you could.
And anything else,
I would like to. Yeah, it would be a good opportunity to work with you. You said you work for an NGO,
I
right?
work for the Welcome House in Northern Kentucky. So we have a, we have a women and children shelter. We do rapid rehousing. Payee. Some people have difficulty managing their money, and we help them with that. So we have a whole kind of list of things that we do to try to help get people out of homelessness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely like to work with you in this regard. And if you
Yeah,
need any help, just let me know. Just get in touch with me after this call.
sure.
Maybe we can
Great. Thank you.
connect.
Cool. The
Yeah.
joy of
Okay.
MeasureCamp.
Thank you so much.
That's how
Yeah.
MeasureCamp works. It's those surreptitious
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Cool. So, has there anybody got any questions? If you got your hand up, I can. Sorry, I'm gonna boot you out, Paul. Now, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to turn it up. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? If you want to put your hand up, I can bring you up so you can ask it, or you can post it in the Q&A if you don't want to have your face and voice on screen. I appreciate that. It's not for everyone. Apart from that, we've got a few extra sessions being added to the session board at the moment. So if you guys weren't sure where you're going next, because the last session looked fairly empty, we've just added a few more in there. I'm going to be doing a sort of analytics and CRO AMA in this room after this session ends. So basically, if Pooja's finished, I will sort of boot her back out from that. Thank you very much for the talk. It's very interesting to see sort of Power BI. I kind of got a question here, Pooja. After you said I've used Power BI more than I've used Tableau. Have you only sort of done Power BI for this project because it was kind of free point of entry and therefore you could do that? Had you used it much before this, or was this your first sort of attempt to play with Power BI and do this sort of visual?
So with this particular project, I was explore since it was just a personal project. I had the time, and I mean, I had the capability, the freedom to do whatever and try whatever within Power BI. But I have worked for an organization before. I was working with Visual BI, like I was mentioning earlier. So I was working on their product and to show how their product can be used. So different capabilities of that particular product. So I mean, I can share the link if you would like to see. So it's present on their website, the company's website, as a sort of a live demo for that particular product. So that's when I started using it. And then I wanted to see what all I can do. And there is actually a fun project that I was working in. It's called a Ferrari Dashboard. And if someone is interested in looking into a Ferrari dashboard, there are many visuals that are made using that. So again, coming back to Power BI, it gives you a lot of capabilities where you can just do anything. I mean, it's really user friendly. So yeah, I mean, I did some fun projects as well, apart from the organization project.
Yeah, no, Tom, I use Power BI pretty much every day for my stuff, and I'm doing a mix of different things. So there's some pretty impressive stuff, and they're moving on with their I think their pace of features versus what Tableau have been doing. I'd be interested to see what happens with Tableau now Salesforce have bought it, because I think they'll start to do more of what they do with Salesforce reporting with the nicer interface stuff you get in things like Einstein. But I found the biggest problem for me was not so much the interface. I can do data prep, I can do the measures and stuff, but it's the democratization. I think sharing assets with people for effectively just a Power BI Pro license at $10 a month, it's a lot easier to get client adoption on that than it is to turn around and say, right, it's going to cost you $70 a month per person to have edit access, and then everybody wants to access online is going to need to spend another $70, and this is their reduced price. It used to be like more like $2,000 a year. I think getting the data in the hands of the people you need to is a damn sight easier on Power BI than it is on Tableau. But apart from the two, springs and roundabouts, there's different bits on each one. But no, it's interesting. I've seen Power BI used in that sort of as a replacement for PowerPoint before. I think that's a very good use case for what, like you say, data telling a story. So it's an interesting subject. So cool. Okay, so the next session starts shortly, but it's going to be me in here doing kind of an AMA. So if anybody wants to. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Earlier, you had said something about a website that she could have used. I just wanted to see if you could put that in the chat.
The Esri. Yeah, it's a play plugin. It's Esri ArcGIS, Esri mapping. So Esri mapping. Bing have got some. Yeah, so if you're we're kind of starting the AMA now, I guess. What to do? AMA Power BI mapping. No, that's fine. Okay. So if you want to do, there are two ways to get mapping into Power BI. There's the built-in maps, which are mostly powered by Bing, which have got some limitations, but fine for simple stuff. Now, if you're in the States, they're pretty good. So you've got different breakdowns by metro. You can do shape charts by state. If you're working in Europe or outside of the US, the charts are basically at country level. So I can do England and Wales, but it's not very good for anything more finite than that. ArcGIS Esri have got a paid plugin, and it is reasonably priced.
Okay.
But they're separate. Their next section is they have a lot of geospatial data on everything, and that's where the costs come in. But an awful lot of the stuff that comes in the Power BI plugin is reasonable stuff. So things like income levels, so survey data for the UK, it's got county boundaries, so the voting areas. So there were an awful lot of Power BI visits that came out when they had the elections showing votes per county boundary, and you're able to do fill in for those sort of things. And it just works as an overlay layer, where if you mouse over something, it will show you not just the number you've got. So here's, Pooja's example, here's 1,500 people who are reported homeless for this location. But in the tooltip, it will also show you what the average home ownership is, or what the average house price is. So we're talking about, if we're talking about people being homeless, accessibility to housing. As we've got greater homelessness problems in the UK, where we've got a higher level of entry point for houses. If it costs more in rent, if it costs more to buy a house, we've got greater homelessness because there's less people can get into affordable housing. So there's going to be a match. And whereas you could look at those as two different data sets, actually with Esri, and I'm not getting commission for this, but with their tool, you can actually overlay these layers. So you can actually see that in respect to kind of, okay, here we've got a high concentration of high house prices, and you can almost see like the boundary where, okay, and this is where it goes from, here's the high price private housing area, very low homelessness, and here comes into the more very high homeless, here comes into the boundary where you've got more council owned stuff and rent controlled places. Homelessness drops, and you can actually see the visual on the map. And instead of, if you think about it like
do you want me to share my screen? I have that.
Yeah. Well, you're still sharing on the one at the moment. So if you've got,
I might have to share again.
I'm just thinking if I've got I've got one.
So I did use Esri before. I mean, I was trying to use it in my current project. So in my current project, I was trying to see. So for example, there's a store and you want to see different customers in a particular radius. So I was trying to do that distance mapping, sort of a proximity mapping, and that's when I was trying to see if we can do something here with Power BI, and that's when I came across the Esri map that you're talking about, the ArcGIS. But there was one thing that I think it was in Bing Maps, that it still restricts the distance that you can limit, and it doesn't give you that much capability. So I think that's one thing that's still lacking with be it Tableau, be it Power BI. Where you but yeah, there is one thing called Mapbox, and I think it's
Mapbox
booming
is the
right
one I was going to
now.
suggest. So Mapbox and Esri. Esri's got they've got more data. So if you were to do, in fact, if I'll talk and then I'll make myself disappear because then your screen will go bigger. But you can buy layers. So for example, I'm working with a car dealership at the moment, and so I've got the lat long of each of their locations, and I've also got the postcode and the lat long position for each of their customers. So I was able to map not just where their customers were on the map, but I was able to use rounding to calculate the distance, and then brought that in as columns in Power BI, and then I could set a filter, say, show me how many customers are 35 miles from this dealership, show me how many are 5 miles, and then you can, with Esri, for example, has got estimated journey time. So if you say, show me everybody who is within put a circle on the map saying 30 minutes drive time, and then you can see how many people fall within that. And that sort of geospatial stuff, you can do that. Now, I did that in Azure because Azure's also got mapping. So we talk about Bing map in Power BI is not great, but if you've got any Azure capacity, there is Azure have got mapping in there. They've got powered by Bing Maps, but you can basically create that in Azure SQL and then bring that into Power BI. So whilst the Bing map in Power BI doesn't let you do it, if you do your lat long grouping and you do your distance measuring in Azure SQL and then bring that in as a column, then the Bing map will let you display, because effectively you've brought in the Azure version of the Bing map as your asset. But it's a little bit more complicated, which is why I mentioned Esri, because they do that stuff They've done that calculation for you. They will show you, here's the concentration of people who've got registered voting, for example. I talked about the election earlier on, and that then gives you a little bit more in terms of kind of pre-done layers. But stuff like show me how many people are looking to buy a car this year within 30 miles of where you want to put your new dealership, they'll charge £10,000 for that, because that's what that's what their business is. So the basic maps and the freely available data, like you showed the COC stuff, the stuff that's is either free or very cheap, so it's good for that. Anything where it's commercially useful, then they charge a fee for that, and that's where the GIS is a big business. GIS is expensive if it's going to be specific to a commercial purpose. But answer a question to Susanna's question earlier on, there are ways to do this without using Esri or only using the cheapest possible entry point for Esri. And you're talking, I think it's like $60 a year or something like for the cheapest entry point. I'm not sure what the pricing is for the US because I checked it out, and the US pricing is cheaper than the UK. They price gouge for us over here. So I don't know what the US prices are. I know it's a lot cheaper than I'm paying.
Tim, I thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. Your session has started at like 5 minutes ago, so I just wanted to know.
It's an AMA. So luckily, if this one I'm fine. Most people seem to have stayed in the room, so I'm fine. If
Perfect.
So Pooja's given a good example of use of Power BI, and you asked the question. How you into the mapping for software. The map box is good. Pooja's right to mention that one. That's one I'm playing with at the moment, and I think pricing wise that might be better for me. I just need to check the functionalities like for like.
So I don't think I purchased anything. So I use it for a limited purpose map box. I'm actually using Tableau at the moment, and that's what I mean. It's been an year since I used Power BI as much. So I was just playing around with it to see that destination mapping sort of and how Google Map does it. So you're able to select an origin, you're able to select a destination, and then just show the route and show the distance as well as show the estimated time. So for us, the problem was that we couldn't use like road mode, like driving mode. Because we are supposed to ship stuff. So we might go for transit or even freight trains. So it was really difficult to map that and see how the distance calculations are done because, and ultimately, I don't think we were able to do that. We were only to get the driving distance, and that too was limited to the United States, since Google API doesn't even generate a distance if you are going outside of the US. So that was one complication, and I still don't have an answer for that. But if you say that we can use Azure SQL, I might.
There's an Azure mapping API which is similar to the Google mapping API, which uses Bing's routing. I don't know what their limitations are because I wasn't doing drive time stuff with them. I was just for the purpose of illustrating. Esri limits you to a maximum of half-hour drive time, I think it is.
Yeah, so it says 30 minutes and 5 miles. So then again, it's a driving mode, so you cannot.
But for my purposes, that's what I needed because I wanted to know people. I was working out post-COVID how many people who had a service that couldn't happen on their car were within a 5-mile radius of 30. Because if they couldn't drive to the dealership to get their car serviced for the warranty, then we had to arrange to get it picked up. So I was able to turn around and say, these are the 10 people who've got a warranty claim that need to bring their car in that are within driving distance. And these are the 20 that have got a warranty claim that are outside driving distance. Therefore, we only have 20 pickups to do, not the entire database. So it was trying to, pardon the pun, flatten the curve of demand when dealerships opened back up but still need to do with servicing. All the servicing that hadn't happened for the previous two months, we had to look at modeling how we could get people in the order priority to do so. And I used Power BI to illustrate that, and also with the Azure mapping to try and look at the distance stuff. But I found the Esri stuff was built into something I was already paying for, whereas with both the Azure Bing Map API and with the Google one, you end up paying in credits. So you have to be quite careful how you set that up if you're going to do that, because the costs are relatively small if you're one analyst asking specific questions, but if it's something you put into a report that is 50 people around the business are using, and they're all hitting the API, whereas if it's in a Bing map using your database, it's just or your your data source, it's the same cost as normal. If every time they refresh that map, it's pulling from your Azure credits, the price goes up very quickly behind the scenes. So that's where you need to be a little bit cautious on kind of where you're using those things. But for the purpose of answering a fixed question rather than having an interactive map that you can look through, that was fine. So that's where I kind of moved more towards Esri, because I was already paying for it. I already had the license, and it was useful to just show people, look, here's a cluster of people who are all outside of your driving area that you think is a reasonable time to drive, but you've got 5 cars that need picking up. So rather than sending one lorry for one car, and we're not talking people with like Fords here, we're talking Ferraris and Bentleys. These guys expect good service, but therefore we'll let's go send one of our prestige ones. Like some branding out there. Let's go do the race transporter, which can take 3 cars at once. And we were able to work out the logistics of going, look, if we do one trip but pick up 3 cars, we have 3 or 4 within a close group where we can do that in one day. And as long as we've got each of those cars dropped off to the appropriate dealerships, they can have them back, and so we can do the drop off the next day. So it's just a question of the costs of doing so. It's a one-off. We're not going to do this every time, but in the post-COVID recovery period, we needed to get everybody who had been told wait 2 months sorted as quickly as possible, because obviously, having got 2 months worth of backlog work to fit through the workshops, we then have the work that will happen in June, July, August anyway, which is a busy time of year. So it was one of those ones where trying to use the tools within the system, and then because I've got it plugged into an Azure SQL database as the source, plugging in Azure Maps and then giving that data to Esri and going, here's where they are, here's their lat long, here's where their pickup location is in Salesforce. I could literally just drop a circle on and say, here's ones which fall outside. Any dots outside, we have to come up with a manual solution. Anybody else inside, we start phoning them saying, do you mind driving? Cool. Okay.
Cool. So are we still using the Google API with Esri? Do we still need to purchase that, or do they have an inbuilt system?
Esri's system is using the data you've got. So if you've got your lat long information in your data table, then so Esri's layers are, there's 2 parts of this. Esri for Power BI, which is kind of the Vizzing side of things, and then there's Esri ArcGIS, which is their platform. So you can create custom layouts, custom mapping. You can put whatever rules you want to do in place for your borders, for your routing. Now, if you then you want to use Google routing, that's what you're pulling into. So you've an Esri database that says this place has got these driving routes, and you could then go, don't use that road. Like, we don't want to go for a toll freeway. So therefore, although it's on the list, we're going to knock that one off. But Esri has got its own geospatial data, which says here's the rough estimate for. So it's not a specific routing system, but you can plug that in, and then Power BI just being the Viz method for that. But I've not played with that specifics part of it that much, because I haven't. I'm just telling the guy who's driving the truck, you need to drive a truck. There's 5 people over there need their cars picking up. He can pick his own route. I'm not doing a day-to-day logistics stuff, but I understand, because I've spoken to the Esri sales guys, that sort of stuff is very much what they do. But that tends to be when you get into the talk to us about our enterprise license part of the pricing, rather than being a simple analyst version of kind of, I just want to answer a single question. So if you were looking to make it into a product and put that product into a Power BI kind of embedded pro service or premium service one, which is kind of on your website, so people can self-plot their driving to your local store, the costs are going to go up across the board, because you're paying for premium capacity, and you're also paying for live mapping or whatever refresh rate mapping you want to do for your Esri stuff. If you then want to layer a custom thing on top to say, show me what the state borders are, or the UK county borders are, that's probably free. But then you go, show me only borders which have got people with a concentration of 10 parts per million and interest in buying a car, and that sort of stuff. They've got that commercial information. If you're trying to plot where to put your new supermarket, they know the ABC one demographic details. They know the average purchase price of the shopping baskets. They know which stores they've shopped from, and you can then map that against location and then present that. But that all of that part that isn't the presenting part is a separate product, costs time and money to do because it's a separate analysis piece. But Power BI, like Tableau, has got the ability, once you've got your answers, to present it. So hang on, if I take my cam off and turn mic off for a little second, we can kind of show what that looks like on Power BI because you've got that shared.
Yeah, so this is just like Cecina was asking earlier. So this is present as a default visual here, the ArcGIS maps, and that's what Tim was mentioning that you can do here, and then you can have different layers. So this, for example, just has these two layers: the overall, homeless, and others. But talking about layers, Tim, I mean, I don't have much to show here now. I know Bing Maps, I think, allowed us to get the distance mapping or something. Let me just go back to Bing Maps. No, it may not be working with this data anyway. But yeah, you could, I think, just right-click and just measure the distance where it shows the driving distance and the miles that it limits. And here you can add the latitude, longitude, and with ArcGIS, I think it added some layers as well. But I've done it using Microsoft, the map box, where you can create custom layers, and that allows you to add more layers. And I was able to use that as a background map in Tableau.
You can use custom layers in Esri, but it's paid for. So I'm not. That's why I was looking at Mapbox myself. So cool. We've talked a bunch about Power BI. I also do CRO analytics and the odd bit of databasey stuff. Has anybody got any other questions? Would like to jump in to talk about stuff? We've got 14 people in the room. Who wants to be brave? Because it's a useless AMA if nobody asks me anything. I mean, I can still probably fill the time but has anybody got anything specific they want to cover off? No, everybody's being shy. Brilliant. Okay. And Pooja's gone down to, so I'm going to take you off being a presenter, Pooja. Okay. So now it's just me and Gautam. So Gautam, do you want to join me for the AMA? Ask each other questions, seeing as nobody else wants to be brave. I'm not sure if we actually... Oh, hang on. Pooja is now asking a question. You're back in the room.
Actually, I did that earlier, and it was still there. Sorry.
Ah.
I need to undo that. I'm still not there. No. Okay. Continue.
Okay. Fine. Okay, so I'm pretty sure if I stop recording at this point,